Beloved heart, before we begin, I have a special gift for you. If you've been feeling the intensity of Earth's rising plasma light codes and want to stay centered in your body and heart and energy field, I've created a free light language quantum grounding activation just for you. This transmission will help you stabilize, integrate, and align with the new frequencies flowing onto the planet. Simply join my mailing list. See the link that's in the show notes to receive instant access. Let's ground into the light together.
This is the transfiguration of the new you. Hello, beloved. I'm Monica Bermudez. I'm your host for this podcast, Ascended Earth. In this week's topic, I'm going to talk about whether it's feeling like the shift of the two realities of the old Earth and the new Earth. And after that lunar eclipse, blood moon, full moon that we had for the month of March, um, it it really feels like we are definitely stepping into a whole new territory of New Earth. It just feels like the reality has really shifted, the timeline has really shifted and quantum leaped into a different reality. And it's starting to feel even more like a twilight zone, or that sensation of it being surreal, like being in other multidimensional aspects of ourselves. And at least that's how I've been feeling it. So I want to talk about this because there's just, so much talk about it as well. There is a shift in the different timelines of course, that has occurred in the collective. And speaking of that, we just had a daylight savings time in the United States, except for like a couple of states or so. And maybe some parts of the world may not have had it just yet. Um, Anyways, I can't wait for when they get rid of daylight savings time. And time is an illusion anyway, so um but let's get into this topic, right? How so many people are quietly sensing but not always talking about, it openly. So are we already living in two different realities? For many spiritually aware people, it feels like something profound is happening on Earth right now. And the human resonance is really indicating that because it has been spiking a lot ever since the lunar eclipse full moon that we had in March, as well, the blood moon. And it's just going to continue to feel even more expansive as well. Now, feeling expansive doesn't mean it's always, going to be great or perfect or anything like that. So some people right now may be feeling, that hopeful, inspired, and excited about the future, whereas others may feel overwhelmed, fearful, or deeply attached to systems that appear to be crumbling. It's almost as if humanity is experiencing the same planet, but through completely different lenses of reality. Many people in the consciousness and spiritual community refer to this as the split between the old Earth and the new Earth timelines. And today we're going to explore what this really means, not from a place of fear or superiority, but from a place of curiosity and awareness. Over the last several years, many people have reported similar experiences. They begin to feel disconnected from systems that once felt normal, and this could be something like a traditional career path, institutions and authority structures, media narratives, old relationship dynamics, even the pace and priorities of society itself. What once felt stable or predictable suddenly feels misaligned. And this can be confusing because on one level, life may look the same, from the outside, but internally something has really changed or shifted. And it feels like there's this whole other next level that is really being called forward. You might feel like you're observing the world rather than participating in the old structures, almost as if you're watching an old operating system continue to run while your consciousness has upgraded to something new. For many people, this is what awakening begins to feel like. One of the most interesting aspects of this time is that two completely different emotional experiences are happening simultaneously on Earth. Some people may be experiencing inspiration, creativity, a connection to purpose, and optimism about the future, while others are feeling that anxiousness and that extreme anger and that fearfulness and that desperate to preserve the past. And the same global events can trigger very different responses depending on someone's consciousness. Why? Because our perception of reality is deeply tied to our level of awareness. When someone begins to awaken, they often stop placing their sense of security in external systems. Instead, they begin trusting inner guidance, intuition, spiritual connection, the unfolding intelligence of life. But if someone still depends entirely on external structures for stability, then any disruption to those systems can feel terrifying. This is why some people see the collapse while others see the transformation. Both experiences can exist at the same time. So, yeah, when things start to really change and the rug gets pulled from under our feet, that in itself will definitely shake up a lot of our identities, especially if we've been with something for many years. And so there's a lot that has been occurring or happening with that. However, with this year of the one, it's about extreme beginnings as well, where it could be that certain things are pulled under the rug. It could bring about an extreme beginning for many. Beloved, if you're craving deeper connection, intuitive expansion, and consistent energetic support, join me inside the Frequency Resonance Lounge. This is a monthly Master Heart Circle, moon ceremonies that includes the full and new moon, and a private community for connections. Link is in the show notes. In many spiritual teachings, the concept of old Earth and the new Earth doesn't mean that two physical planets suddenly appear. Instead, it refers to two different levels of consciousness operating simultaneously. Old Earth is typically associated to this control and hierarchy, fear-based decision-making, competition and scarcity, rigid systems of authority, whereas New Earth consciousness feels and is described as collaboration, intuition, and inner guidance, creativity, and innovation, trusting in the flow of what life is bringing about and the new aspects that are appearing. So the shift between these states isn't something that happens overnight, and it happens gradually, though millions of individual awakenings makes this happen collectively, changing a lot of things. Each time someone begins questioning old patterns, old belief systems, old ways of doing things, and old identities, and each time someone chooses compassion instead of fear, each time someone listens to their inner knowing, inner guidance, they are participating in the emergence of a new collective reality. Some people in the quantum and spiritual communities describe this process using the languages of timelines. Like we talk about timelines a lot. Well, I do, especially for this podcast. And the idea is that reality is not fixed. Instead, there are many possible pathways for our future, for humanity and the collective's future. And the timeline we experience is influenced by collective consciousness. So, in simple terms, where attention goes, the energy flows. If large groups of people focus on fear, conflict, and scarcity, the energy strengthens those experiences. But if growing number of people can focus on more of the compassion, creativity, cooperation, and new solution, then those realities begin to strengthen instead. This doesn't mean we ignore challenges or pretend difficulties don't exist. It means we recognize that our consciousness participates in shaping our reality. So some of the signs you may be shifting into a different timeline. For those who feel this shift personally, there are often some recognizable signs. You might notice you feel less interested in constant news cycles or external drama. You feel drawn to simplicity, nature, and authentic connection. Old goals or ambitions may no longer feel meaningful. You may experience more synchronicities or moments of intuitive clarity. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to sense that life is guiding you, even when the path ahead isn't fully visible. These experiences don't mean you have escaped the world. They simply suggest that your relationship with reality is changing and your perception has shifted, and you have the ability and the flexibility to see those different levels of perception as well, because that's really where it is as far as seeing new earth and being able to recognize and understand your own patterns when they do come up, whether they be shadows, whether they be the light, the strength of the light that you hold within yourself, as we are beings of both shadow and light. And that's not going to go away. The shadow doesn't just go away, it just becomes an integral part of our light that what makes it even stronger. So as we are observing, all these constant changes around the world and the challenges, and the more that you're able to be less triggered, I would say, because trigger is an activation, and there are things that will get us triggered. And so the more that we become aware of our own triggers and understanding what is it that is really triggering inside of us, because the energy is really our own energy. It's not about what someone else puts in us. When we react to certain aspects in our life with others in relationships or situations, it's really about what is, what pattern is stirring or shaking inside of us that is creating that trigger or that activation to come forth, to feel that in the moment. But the moment that you're able to question that, or the moment that you're able to recognize it and be aware of it, is a moment that you're able to attain mastery over it. So it's not a question about who is perfect and who is not, okay? Because being a human in this human body here, being here as this, physical form, our soul through this physical body, which is a temple of our sacred divine expression of who we are here on this earth, the earth itself being a school, is a school of mastery, a school of understanding and learning through the choices that we make. And those choices are whether they're good or bad. And so in that regard, it's really how that's handled or held accountable or responsible. And the thing about these new frequencies, these new greater increased amounts of frequency here on Earth, is that it's also uh, triggering or activating more of this self accountability. So, knowing how to keep yourself accountable as well for the choices made and the decisions, moving forward in the actions in regards to those decisions as well. And it's like really understanding about not blaming others for your circumstances, but realizing that those decisions may have led to a different path that um, now will have you looking at a different solution or a different idea for getting out of that situation or that reality. So everybody is about really our own accountability and our own responsibility for those choices as well. It's easy to fall into the victim mindset and to blame others for something. But what is the hardest is being able to make yourself accountable for those decisions and also taking action in a whole new creative way, a new solution, a new innovative way of looking at things. And so that is, part of the transcending of the lesson that can also collapse a timeline or shift the timeline into this whole different reality or graduate sooner from a situation before it gets bigger and tougher. But that's just part of like taking a test at school. If you're able to get past, the exam, and that exam is some kind of review. I call it a karmic restoration because karma is the cause and effect. It's about balancing um, our life and keeping ourselves balanced. So I see it as a justice of restoration and keeping self accountable. So the way I see it, that these frequencies actually are facilitating for those who are willing to really recognize this and see it. The frequencies are definitely facilitating to make it much easier to recognize this. And especially for those who have been awake for so long, we'll see this, more so playing out as well. If humanity is indeed moving through a shift in consciousness, then the most important question may not be which timeline is winning. The deeper question is, how do we choose to show up in this moment? Every thought, every action, every choice rooted in fear or love, all of it contributes to the future we are collectively creating. Perhaps the emergence of a new Earth doesn't happen through dramatic events. Perhaps it happens quietly through individuals who choose awareness, through people who listen to their intuition, through people who decide to live with compassion, curiosity, and courage. And if you're listening to this podcast, there is a good chance you're already part of that shift. Thank you for being here, and thank you for participating in the evolution of the consciousness of this planet. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to click like, save, and share with others so they can also experience what you just experienced. And stay tuned for some more high vibe episodes. And I'll be connecting with you in the next quantum field. Sending you so much love.